What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Personal Time Outdoors. Today's video is going to be the debrief for the backpacking trip that my wife and I took to the Manistee River Loop in Michigan in October of 2025. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will link to it at the end of this video, and I'll also list it in the description, so be sure to check that out. Now, the Manistee River Loop is considered the most popular backpacking trip in Michigan. And because of that, there's already all kinds of information and videos about it online. So for today's video, I'm just going to give you a few highlights of our trip and give you a few tips. Now, when I did my research on this trail, I learned that it can be very crowded on the weekends. In fact, when we were there, we struck up a conversation with a guy who lives in the area, and he told us that at times it can be extremely difficult even to find an open campsite. Now, we chose to hike in the middle of the week. We started our trip on a Wednesday and we ended on a Friday. And by taking that approach, we didn't have any trouble finding a campsite. So I'm thinking that that's probably the best way to hike this trail if you can. We drove in the day before and we stayed in a hotel in Cadillac, Michigan. Now, Cadillac is only about a 40-minute drive from the trailhead, so that allowed us to get an early start on the trail. And there are several hotels in Cadillac to choose from if you want to go ahead and take that approach yourself. Now, unfortunately, there's not one perfect map for me to use to give you the details of this trail. So I'm going to use a few different ones here to point out a few things. Okay, so let's start with this U.S. forestry map. And what I've done here is I've kind of color-coded the trail loop for you. The portion in red is the NCT North Country Trail portion of the loop, and in blue we have the Manistee River Trail portion of the loop. Like I said in my trip video, this whole loop is about 20 miles, and it's roughly evenly divided. You can see the river here is this gray line that kind of flows down this way. And about half the loop is on the western side of the river, and the other half of the loop is on the eastern side of the river. Now for parking, you got a few options. You've got this Red Bridge River access area down here. You've got the Upper River Trailhead over here. On the northern end, you've got the Marilla Trailhead, as well as the Seton Creek Campground area that you can park at. Now, I've heard that the Marilla and Seton Creek areas have a fee to park there. We didn't go up that way, so I can't confirm it, but I did see that in a few places online that they do have some kind of a fee system for those areas. But Red Bridge was free when we parked there, and my understanding is that the Upper River Trailhead is free as well. Now, we also did see some vehicles parked on some of these roads that the trail crosses, like this Slagle Creek Road and this Arquilla Creek Road. But I really don't know what the rules are for that. So if you're going to consider that, you probably want to check into that on your own before you leave your vehicle. Now we hiked the loop in a counterclockwise direction, like I said, starting down here at Red Bridge, and we hiked the NCT up and around this way. One thing to be aware of, the NCT portion of this loop is very dry. There really are not any water sources until you come up to this Eddington Creek area. And I want to say that that's probably 7 to 8 miles into the hike. So if you're going to do that, please make sure you bring enough water to get you at least that far. Also, we saw several good campsites along the NCT, but again, they're dry. You can camp there as long as you bring enough water and plan ahead. I'm going to switch to the All Trails map to show you where we camped on night number 1 because that map does a better job of showing it. So this is the All Trails map of this loop. So if you have a subscription to All Trails, this map is already preloaded for you, which makes it really nice. I'm going to zoom in here on the northern part of the loop to kind of show you where that camping area is. Okay, so this right here is where the suspension bridge crosses the river. And the campsite we stayed at for night number 1 is actually marked by this campsite marker right here. And as you're coming down the trail, this is where you get that first really nice view of the river. So you can see it's not that much further away from that area is where you're going to find this campsite. And what you want to do is you're going to come to a trail here, a small trail on your right, and you hike down a little bit of a bank, or a little bit of a hill, and you'll see the campsite right here in the woods. And as you can see, it's right here on the river, so you do have water access, and it really is a nice little campsite. It's not one of the official campsites, but it is well established, and it looks like a lot of people use it, so you shouldn't have any issues using that campsite. So now let's talk about the campsites on the Manistee River Trail side of the loop, and I'm going to switch to a different map to show you those. So let me apologize up front for the image quality of this map. This is actually taken from a photograph of the map that they have posted at the trailheads, but I haven't been able to find this exact map online. And the nice thing about this one is it shows you all of the official campsites on the Manistee River side. It gives you the campsite numbers, which other maps that I found, for whatever reason, they don't have the campsites numbered. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this one despite the image quality. Now there are 43 of these designated campsites, and each one of them, when you get to the entrance of the campsite, you're going to see like a marker, like a post in the ground, and it's going to have the campsite number listed right on it. Now, in addition to these designated campsites, there are multiple established campsites along this trail that you'll see that people have made over the years, and they're established. I don't believe that there's any issue with you using those if you find one that you like, but they aren't going to be shown on this map. Keep in mind that everything is first come, first served, so there's no way to reserve a campsite online or make any kind of pre-arrangements to use a specific site. As you can see, all of these sites are along the river, but I want to make sure that you're aware that most of these sites are up really high. So in other words, you've got a great view of the river, but you really don't have water access from the river. So if you are going to camp in one of these, it's important to plan ahead and make sure you fill up on all your water when you cross one of the streams that run across the trail. And make sure you take enough water with you to your campsite to get you through the night. That said, there were a few campsites that did have water access, so I'm going to zoom in here to show you those. Now the first one I want to talk about is this campsite 4C right here. That's actually the campsite that we stayed at on night number 2, and it's right next to this Slagle Creek right here. So you do have really good water access right from that creek, and I would highly recommend that site. It's a nice spot. It does afford you a little bit of privacy, and as I said, you do have that water access. Additionally, you could stay at site 4B. It's a little bit misleading on this map, but 4B is actually on the other side of the trail. And it's in the woods, but you could walk a short distance down the trail and get to the creek and get your water that way, and it wouldn't be too bad. Beyond those two, the only other two sites that I recall seeing that were near the river were campsites 8A and 8B, right down here. Now 8A was set a little bit back, but you were in view of the river, so I think you could walk over and get your water that way. And 8B was really close to the river, so that one there wouldn't be a problem getting water. If anybody else remembers any other sites that are near the water, please leave them in the comments for everybody. Now, as I mentioned in the trip video, large portions of this trail are relatively flat. You do have a few decent elevation gains. Those are mostly on the NCT side, but there are a couple on the Manistee River Trail side as well, so be aware of that. The trail, for the most part, is very comfortable to hike. It's very smooth. There's not a lot of rocks or roots or things that you have to worry about, so you can hike at a pretty good pace. Now, it's easy to see why this trail is so popular. I mean, you get great views, the campsites are really nice, and it's relatively easy to hike. My wife and I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that's looking for like a 2-night, 20-mile backpacking loop. It's a really nice trail to hike. That said, I would recommend trying to go during the week if you can, just to avoid those crowds. Well, that about wraps this one up. If you have any questions about the trail, be sure to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And thanks for watching today, and we will see you next time.